Rain pounded the rooftop as Anna Carter stood frozen in the living room, her fingers clenched around the strap of an old canvas bag. Inside it were a few sets of children's clothes, a half-empty bottle of milk, and a pale blue blanket Mia always clutched in her sleep. The house was warm, almost suffocating. The chandelier above cast a soft golden glow. The scent of cinnamon and burning wood still lingered in the air, but Anna, a part-time art teacher, stood there soaked, shivering from a cold far deeper than weather. On the sofa, Vivian Langston, her mother-in-law, sat like a judge, pristine white sweater, wine glass gently swirling in her hand. Behind her, Jacob Langston, Anna's husband, leaned against the wall, eyes glued to the financial news on the TV, not once looking at his wife. "You can walk out on your own," Vivian said calmly, as if mentioning a slight chance of rain. "Or I'll call the police." Anna swallowed hard. "The kids are asleep." "Even better, easier to carry." She turned to Jacob, one last glance, searching for something to hold on to, but he only said, without meeting her eyes, "I'm not sure those kids are even mine." Anna let out a soft laugh. Not bitter, just the kind that comes when something truly ends. She nodded. No more words were needed. As she walked upstairs, the wooden floor creaked beneath her. Mia clutched her one-eared teddy bear. Leo still gripped the collar of her sweater like he was dreaming. She gathered them both, wrapped in an old blanket, and came back down. Vivian had already opened the door. Cold air lashed against Anna's neck like a blade. She turned once to look at Jacob, not with hope, but to remember. The man she once loved was now just a statue carved from silence. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the children, then stepped into the storm. Without looking back, rain poured like a waterfall as Anna trudged across the muddy road, her thin coat no match for the wind that sliced through her skin. In one arm she carried Mia, the little girl curled up, face buried against her mother's neck. In the other, she held Leo, his small body stiff from cold, yet his fingers still gripped her collar as if by instinct. She didn't know how far she had walked, only that each step felt like dragging the entire world behind her, and every gust of wind screamed what her husband never had the courage to say out loud. But Anna didn't stop. She couldn't. Through the bare trees, a shadow emerged in the rain, an old, rotting shed abandoned like a forgotten memory. To Anna, it wasn't shelter. It was simply the last place left to go. She pushed the wooden door open with hands gone numb, skin purple from the cold. The hinges groaned like something in pain. Inside, the air was damp and stale, thick with the scent of old hay and cold dirt. Unpleasant, but dry. Anna laid the children onto a thin pile of straw. The strands clung to their cheeks and hands like tiny needles. Mia began to whimper from the cold. Anna didn't hush her, not because she didn't care, but because her throat had stopped forming words. All that remained was breath, short, ragged, desperate. Mia, only 3 years old, started sobbing aloud. She buried her face in Anna's chest, lips trembling. "Mommy, I'm cold." Anna untied her scarf, wrapping it around Mia's small frame with shaking hands. "I'm here, sweetheart. Mommy's here." But Leo, he still said nothing. The 3-year-old boy didn't cry, didn't ask. He just watched. His eyes, wide and silent, didn't belong to a child. They belonged to someone who'd already seen too much. Anna pulled both of them close, pressing their small bodies against her own. Mia trembled in fits. Leo stayed still, awake and listening. Anna didn't know if she was trying to keep them warm or just trying not to pass out. Wind scraped the tin roof. Darkness seemed to swallow everything. Her eyelids grew heavier, her arms began to slide away. And then Leo moved. Not fast, not scared. He simply reached out and touched his mother's cheek. "Please don't leave me," he whispered. His voice was as thin as wind, but in it was every heartbreak a child should never have to carry. And somewhere else, just as the rain slowed, silence draped over the valley. A black SUV rolled slowly down the muddy road toward Granger Farm. A weathered patch of land nestled among bare pine trees. Behind the wheel sat Ethan Granger, 45, biotech millionaire, owner of a string of New York labs. But in this moment, he wasn't the polished executive. His eyes were fixed on the old wooden house, the place that had once, painfully, been called home. His childhood had passed without a name, without welcome, without a single door opening for him. Except once, when an old farmer found a shivering boy in the barn after a storm. That man raised him until the age of 19, then passed away. Ethan left and never looked back. Until today. He turned off the engine but didn't step out right away. The cabin light lit his still face, unreadable, uncertain. Beyond the windshield was the wooden porch, sagging with age, and farther back, shrouded in shadow, the shed. A voice called gently, "Welcome home, Ethan." It was June, the housekeeper who had stayed on after Ethan's foster father died. She looked the same, silver hair, wiry frame, sharp eyes. In her hand was a cup of hot ginger tea. "Still smells like old hay," she smiled. "And still just as cold," Ethan replied, his eyes locked on the dark shape of the shed. June hesitated, then said softly, "I heard something from out back last night. Thought it was a stray cat, but it sounded like a child crying." Ethan didn't respond, but his hand tightened around the mug. His eyes had already gone somewhere far away. "Want me to check it?" "No," he said quietly. "I'll go." He pulled his coat back on and stepped out into the crisp autumn air. Each footfall down the muddy path felt like stepping through time. When he opened the shed door, Ethan froze. Inside was a woman, collapsed against the wall. 2 children, one asleep, the other sitting upright, staring straight at him. No fear, no crying, just a silent gaze that asked a wordless question. "Who are you, and what will you do?" He didn't call out. He knelt down, slowly removed his coat, and draped it over all 3 of them. His hands trembled, not from the cold, but because this shed had once been the place where his own loneliness began. But this time, he had returned, not to be left behind, but to bring someone forward. He lifted Anna onto his back. She was light, as if all she had left was exhaustion. Leo clung to the hem of her coat, and Mia rested limp in his other arm. When they stepped out, June, the longtime housekeeper, had already opened the door. No one asked questions. No one needed to. They simply knew 3 lives had been pulled from the edge. Anna woke to the hazy light of an early winter morning. The room was quiet, warm, old wood but clean. No sirens, no shouting, just the wind brushing the window pane and the faint scent of jasmine carried by the fireplace. She bolted upright. "Nia? Leo?" The door opened. A man stepped inside. Tall, steady, eyes deep. Not rushed. Not intimidating, just calm. "They're in the next room, still asleep. They're safe." His voice was low and even, like damp wood after a storm. Anna clutched the blanket tighter, her gaze fixed on him. "Where are we?" "Granger Farm," he said. "I'm the one who found you and your kids last night." She paused, silent. No thank you, no suspicion, just the careful stillness of someone who had trusted wrong too many times before. "I'm Ethan," he added. "Ethan Granger." Anna nodded, part gratitude, part hesitation. He didn't press further, didn't ask questions. He simply stood there, as if guarding her space, not invading it. Then, very softly, Anna whispered, "I didn't think we were going to survive the night." Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, keeping a careful distance, making sure she didn't feel cornered. "You got your children out of the storm. That's all I need to call you a mother, in every real sense." Anna lowered her head, and in that quiet moment, where nothing chased her, judged her, or demanded she be strong, she began to cry, not from fear, but because for the first time in years, she was allowed to fall apart without losing her worth. The room remained still. The fireplace crackled softly in the corner, and the light from the bedside lamp painted soft golden streaks across the wall. Anna sat there, a blanket wrapped around her narrow shoulders, her hands laced together as if holding something fragile from breaking. "You don't have to hear it," she whispered. "I know people get tired of sad stories, especially when they can't do anything to fix them." Ethan said nothing. He simply lifted his tea, cradling it in his hands, holding onto the warmth for both of them. "She said I cheated," she whispered, her voice hoarse, almost breaking. "She said maybe the kids weren't even Jacob's." Ethan didn't react. No raised brow, no sharp inhale. He simply sat, still, as if he'd heard too many false accusations in his own life to flinch anymore. "And him," she hesitated, her eyes dropping. "My husband didn't defend me. Didn't ask. Just stood there, eyes on the TV, then said, 'I'm not sure they're mine.'" Her voice wasn't angry. It was tired, worn like something that had been carried too long. Her pain didn't scream anymore. It ached. "I'm not telling you this for pity," she said, nearly shaking. "I just want someone to know I tried, that I didn't betray anyone. I only wanted to keep my children safe." A long silence followed. Then Ethan spoke, not looking at her, almost as if confessing to the child he once was. "I stayed in that shed for 3 nights. I was 6. I didn't have a name. No one came looking." He finally looked up and their eyes met, and in that stillness, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. They simply sat there, 2 people, carrying different memories of being left behind. But this time, neither of them was alone anymore. That morning, everything felt oddly calm. Sunlight streamed through the pine trees, mist still clinging to the grass. Mia sat on the porch, lining up acorns in perfect rows. Leo sat beside her, carving June into a wooden spoon with quiet focus. Anna was in the kitchen, her hands still damp from washing dishes. Her face was unpainted, her shoulders relaxed, a morning without tension, the first in years. Until the crunch of tires rolled in from the gate. Ethan heard it first. He stepped out onto the porch, standing still. Leo looked up. Mia turned too. A sleek black SUV rolled into the driveway, its wheels carving deep tracks in the wet red clay. The car door opened. Jacob Langston stepped out. White shirt, red tie, slicked back hair. One hand held a box of cookies, the other a hastily wrapped children's gift. He walked in like he still owned the place. "Anna?" he called, voice smooth and sticky, like syrup masking rot. "You look better? Not quite how you looked crawling out that night." Anna stepped out, shoulders squared, eyes unwavering. "Why are you here?" "To see my kids," he said smoothly. "I'm their father." "And since when did you remember that?" "Look, I get you're mad, but you can't keep them from me. I've still got rights." A quiet creak came from the house. Ethan stepped outside. Calm, steady, he stood beside Anna. Not touching her, just standing firm. "I'm Ethan Granger. I own this land. If you have business, go through a lawyer." Jacob scoffed, eyeing Ethan, then turned to Anna. "So, this is the new guy? Handy, rich, good with tools?" Anna didn't answer. "Because he no longer deserved one. You threw us out into a storm, called me trash, and now you show up with cookies and soft words?" Jacob stepped forward. Just then, Leo appeared at the doorway. "Don't let him in, Mom." His voice was small, but each word was a blade. Jacob stopped cold. Anna stepped forward. "You didn't raise them. Didn't ask if they were even alive. So tell me, Jacob, what exactly are you to them now?" Jacob glared, voice rising. "I'll sue you. I'll get custody." Ethan moved just one step. It was enough. "Good. See us in court. But step foot on this land again without a subpoena. I'll walk you off myself." Jacob glared. "You think he'll stay with you forever?" Anna's voice was steady. "Longer than you ever did." Jacob turned, climbed into the SUV, and drove off, leaving behind dust, cigarette smoke, and a past that had nowhere left to return to. Anna sank onto the porch steps. Her heart still raced, but this time her hands didn't tremble. That afternoon, after Jacob had left and the tension finally began to dissolve, Anna sat quietly by the window, her hands folded, warm towels fresh from the dryer. In the kitchen, June's ginger cookies filled the house with their soft, sweet scent. Mia was coloring a picture of sunshine and a house. Leo said nothing, but stayed close beside her, his eyes still watching their mother. He had grown used to her not crying anymore, and that comforted him more than any words could. Anna looked around. The house was still old, the wood still worn, the door still creaked. But for the first time, it didn't feel temporary. It had laughter now, warmth, small footsteps racing across the floor each morning. It had Ethan, a man who made no promises but never left. She turned to June, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know where we're going next, but if it's okay, I'd like to stay for a while. I can help in the kitchen, do laundry. I don't want to take anything for free." June didn't answer right away. She kept folding towels, then gave a small smile. "This house hasn't felt alive in years. You and the kids brought it back." That evening, after the children had fallen asleep, Anna sat in the quiet living room. Ethan was adjusting a door hinge nearby. Neither of them spoke, but when their eyes met for a moment, no words were needed. Anna understood she had just begun to lay the foundation for a home, not with bricks or nails, but with trust, small and real. That afternoon, the autumn light poured like honey through the thinning trees. No one said where they were going, but they all knew. The second-floor courtroom in Jefferson County Courthouse stood quiet beneath its high ceilings and dark wood paneling. It felt more like a chapel than a legal chamber. No one raised their voice. No one smiled. Tension hung thick, like fog that refused to lift. Anna entered first. White blouse, no makeup, hair tied low. In her hands, a small notebook, filled with wounds no one had seen. Ethan walked beside her, saying nothing, not holding her hand, just present, like a quiet wall behind her. Leo and Mia sat in the second row with June. Mia clung to June's arm. Leo didn't speak, he simply stared at the judge's bench, unblinking. Jacob sat across the aisle, black suit, red tie, hair slicked back. But his eyes weren't steady, they fidgeted. Vivian Langston, seated beside him, clutched her snakeskin purse, her gaze detached, like this was merely an afternoon errand. Judge Louise Albright entered, silver hair, spine like iron, eyes sharp as glass. She gave a single nod, no gavel needed. Preliminary custody hearing, Carter versus Langston, begin. Anna's attorney opened the file and placed documents on the desk. Medical report confirming Anna's fractured ribs and shoulder. Forged denial of medical aid, verified to be signed by Vivian. Audio recording from the night Anna was thrown out. A button was pressed. Jacob's voice echoed, distorted by rage. "You and those kids, get out of my house." Then Mia's sobbing, and Leo's scream. "Don't leave, Mommy." Silence clamped down like a lid. The judge turned to Jacob. "You were accused of domestic violence in 2016. Records say a private settlement. Do you deny this?" Jacob said nothing. Anna took the stand. No notes, no paper, she just spoke. "I didn't leave because I was angry. I left because if I stayed, my children would learn that silence is the answer to violence. I used to be silent, but they shouldn't be." A pause, a stillness. The judge closed the file, her voice firm. "This court awards full custody and guardianship to Anna Carter. Jacob Langston, all paternal rights suspended indefinitely. Vivian Langston, referred for criminal investigation for forgery and benefits fraud." Mia leaned in close. "Does the judge know Mommy's a good person?" Leo answered, eyes still on the bench. "He knows, because today, Mommy didn't cry." On the drive home from court, no one said a word. But the silence wasn't heavy. It was still, the kind that follows the moment someone sets down a weight they've carried far too long. Anna sat in the back seat, Mia curled up in her lap, sound asleep. Leo pressed his forehead to the window, drawing fog circles with his breath. Then he added 2 arms to each one. 4 figures, standing in a row. "I drew our family," Leo whispered. Anna didn't answer. She just brushed his hair gently, and for the first time, her eyes no longer held hesitation. The next day, sunlight poured gold over the fields behind Granger Farm. The wind was gentle now, no longer carrying cold, just the quiet promise of a season beginning anew. No one said it aloud, but everyone knew today was for something special. Ethan carried a small basket, Anna held an old broom, Mia clutched her box of crayons, and Leo carried a carefully folded piece of paper. They returned to the shed. The old door still stood, its hinges freshly repaired. The moldy scent had faded, replaced by clean wood, soft sunlight, and memories that no longer hurt, only hummed quietly, like a sad song played so often it lost its sting. Anna stepped in first. She ran her hand along the doorway, gently, like touching an old scar. The wind drifted in. The room was still the shed, but now it was part of their story, not the end of it. Ethan propped a wooden plaque against the wall, the words carved deep, rough but certain, "No one gets left behind." Just above it, Leo's heart drawing fluttered slightly in the breeze, a soft promise that even broken things could be beautiful. Leo unfolded his paper. A drawing, a red heart, tilted, its color bleeding outside the lines. Not perfect, but real. He taped it to the wall, right beside the plaque. Anna looked at Ethan. Her voice trembled, but her gaze was steady. "I'm not the girl who keeps getting lost anymore." Ethan nodded. "And I'm not the boy behind the wall either." Sunlight slipped through the wooden slats, casting warm rays across the 2 images on the wall. A heart and a promise. They had returned to where it all began, not to stay in the pain, but to finally close the circle. On Mia and Leo's 4th birthday, the sky was startlingly clear. The sun draped itself like velvet across the hills, and the breeze whispered gently, carrying the scent of fresh-baked cake and hay. The whole town came. Some brought sweets, others brought toys, and a few just came to see her. Anna, the woman once cast out into a storm, now standing steady in a soft green dress, hair pulled back, smiling like spring after a long, hard winter. June had baked a 3-tiered cake, its white frosting dotted with colorful candy pearls. Ethan had set up a long wooden table in the middle of the yard. On it, a small carved sign sat quietly. "Today we were born again." Mia darted around the yard, hugging every gift, running back to Leo to show each treasure like it was gold. Leo, quieter as always, stayed close to Ethan, holding a colored pencil in his hand. Ethan leaned down, his voice gentle. "You doing okay, kiddo?" Leo looked up, then gave a small nod. Then he spoke, so soft it nearly got lost in the breeze. "Dad." Ethan froze, not from surprise, but because in that one word, every old winter inside him melted away. Mia heard it. She ran up, hugging Ethan's leg. "Daddy, I'm 4 today." From across the yard, Anna saw it all. Her eyes no longer guarded, just clear and bright and full of something she hadn't let herself feel in years. Belief. Ethan lifted both children in his arms and spun them into the golden air. Their laughter rang like wind chimes. Leo wrapped his arms around Ethan's neck and whispered again, this time not with fear, but with hope. "Don't ever go away, okay, Dad?" And Ethan knew he never would. He didn't say it aloud, but he held Leo tighter, as if answering without words. "I'm already home."